co-production process. And it's an iterative, it's not a, you know, a precise scientific process, but certainly one that throws up things. And people, I've found people who've done this sort of realise that, gee, we're dependent on them to do that. You know, maybe if we just tweak things just slightly, that would actually help this process work a whole lot better.
John, the interesting thing is that it seems to me that a lot of the efficiency, new public management paradigm, if you like, which I think Don's a little bit, I mean, the new public management was a term made up after the event to describe a very disparate set of reforms. But those sort of concerns apply very much in this space in that, for example, if you're trying to get somebody who is likely to, who has a very high likelihood of heart disease to co-produce, then an efficient intervention after they've had an episode and having
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Sorry?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that last sentence.
If you're trying to intervene with a person who's got a high likelihood of heart disease and you're wanting them to co-produce, then an intervention that efficiently intercedes with that person after they've had some kind of an initial episode and then has efficient follow-up is quite crucial to getting that person being inclined to co-produce.
Yeah.
And you see the same in working with offenders in trying to get them to want to cease reoffending. You know, thinking of some of the work out of the UK, if you're intervening with young men at the moment when they've just had a child born and the child can be brought into the prison and you can be then getting them to bond with and work with the child, you're actually getting them at crucial moments when they are much more likely to want to co-produce.
Yeah.
So it's firstly a matter of intelligently and efficiently identifying the moments when we're likely to get people to want to co-produce, but then you need efficient processes, delivery processes, to actually make sure that there is a stream of service delivery being provided to that person to support their willingness.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I absolutely agree, and that's why we call it co-production, because it's two parties here, at least, who are involved in this. Absolutely agree.
Hello, I was just wondering to what extent you think the concept of co-production can assist government agencies who I think generally tend to think of these things in terms of community education, marketing, that sort of thing. And so a lot of what you're talking about, the motivators, actually are coming from a communications focus rather than perhaps a policy or a program delivery or a production focus.
Yeah, well, it can be any of those things. One of the things that it does throw up is an additional vital reason for governments to pay attention to clients, for example. Osborne and Gabler, there's a passage in Osborne and Gabler where they say that government organisations are hopeless at client service because they don't get any money from their clients, so they therefore have no incentive to provide good service. Well, I would argue there is another incentive. You don't get money from your clients, but you get contributions of co-productive effort if you do things well. And part of that, you know, clients are more likely to do that if they're being treated, if government agencies are trying to understand what it is that they want and trying to give it to them, which sounds a bit to me like client focus.
I've got a question. John, very interesting presentation. We've had some discussions about this, and I've often thought about the governance level of this. And in light of Chris Eccles' presentation this morning, and also Don Kettle's in the morning, there's this broader challenge of trying to really change the way we do get government services provided in very difficult circumstances. So you've made the point that we're already very good at co-production, and your appeal is sort of to public managers to recognize this more fully. But in that larger governance debate, I'm wondering if you've thought about how you communicate this larger dynamic of co-production in such a way that it creates a greater sense of possibility about the ability of, say, our societies to do things differently.
Yeah.
And not in that downloading spirit, but to have a broader sense of possibility there. Is there a greater sort of, it is a communications challenge, I get.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that relates to the previous questioner. Firstly, let me just clarify, I'm not saying that we already do co-production well. All that I'm saying is we already do co-production, and we could do it a lot better. We could pay attention, we could realise that that's what we're in the game of, and make sure that we orchestrate and configure ourselves better to deal with that. More generally, I think by trying to say that co-production is not the same as co-governance, I'm not saying that co-governance is unimportant or not to be taken any notice of. I'm simply saying that we need to delineate carefully the nature of the terms. And actually I think an essential precondition for much co-production is some form of co-governance, because it goes to the motivation. If people feel that they are part of a process, they feel greater ownership, they're helping make those decisions. So in that sense, I think all of the insights we've been hearing elsewhere in the conference so far, and no doubt later today, are absolutely relevant to this. All of those kind of things, figure. All I'm doing is adding this extra element of co-production, and hoping that also is stimulated by these co-governance improvements that have been talked about.